Mud clings to the farmer's rough leather shoes and woolen hem as he trudges through his flooded field. The wheat stalks bent and blackened under the relentless rain that has battered Western Europe for months. What should be golden sheaves ready for harvest now slump into the muck, roots rotting in waterlogged soil that smells of decay and despair. A child nearby scavenges for anything edible, roots, weeds, even the bark from a withered tree, while the sky unleashes another torrent, turning the ground into a treacherous slurry that swallows hope with every step. How could months of relentless rain destroy the harvests that fed millions across medieval Europe? The village huddles under thatched roofs, leaking like sieves, where families crowd around meager fires fueled by damp wood that smokes more than it warms. Bread, the center of every meal, now stretches thin with ground acorns and peas, and even that begins to disappear as the last stores from earlier harvests run out. A mother portions out the thin gruel with trembling hands, while her husband sharpens a scythe beside the door, fearing that hungry thieves might soon come for their last animals. Whispers spread of fields across the valley yielding nothing but mold, forcing villagers to slaughter oxen too weak to plow, their meat tough and sparse. The air hangs heavy with the stench of wet earth and unwashed bodies, a reminder that survival here means enduring the grind of hunger that gnaws deeper each day. As word trickles in from nearby hamlets, the rot reveals itself not as isolated misfortune, but a creeping plague on the land, with rivers swollen beyond their banks, drowning entire pastures. Peasants gather in the muddy square, bartering what little they have, tools, clothing, even heirlooms, for a sack of oats that costs triple last year's price. A fight erupts when one accuses another of hoarding grain, fists flying in the rain, until the Lord's bailiff intervenes with a whip, enforcing the feudal dues that demand a share of the non-existent harvest. Children play listlessly in puddles that breed fever, their bellies swollen from malnutrition, while elders recount tales of bountiful years now seeming like distant myths. The monumental gray skies press down, mirroring the weight of a landscape transformed into a vast, sodden wasteland, where architecture crumbles under the assault, bridges washed away, mills silenced by flooded wheels. Venturing toward the town, the paths turn to quagmires that suck at cartwheels, delaying merchants who arrive with tales of similar devastation from France to the Low Countries. Market stalls that once bustled with trade now stand half empty, with small, dark loaves of bread priced 5 times higher than in normal years, far beyond what most peasants can afford. A baker guards his oven fiercely as a crowd presses in, their eyes hollow with want, and when a loaf tumbles to the ground, hands scramble in the filth to claim it. The smell of yeast mixes with the rot of unsold vegetables, drawing rats that scurry boldly in daylight, a sign of the hidden vermin thriving amid human decline. Authority tightens its grip, with guards patrolling to quell unrest, their own rations barely sufficient to maintain order in a place where daily routines fracture under the strain of empty bellies and fevered nights. Deeper into the marketplace, the system's veins pulse with strain as grain merchants haggle over imported stocks from distant regions, untouched by the deluge. But prices soar beyond reach for common folk. Feudal lords demand their tithes in grain and livestock, carting away what little survives the harvest, leaving peasants to survive on boiled leather straps, tree bark, and the flesh of dead horses found along the roads. A thief is caught pilfering from a vendor's cart, his public flogging drawing a silent crowd that knows desperation could soon make criminals of them all. The air buzzes with rumors of villages abandoned, families migrating in search of drier lands, only to find the famine's shadows stretching across borders. Beneath the surface, in the cool damp of underground cellars, reserved stocks mold in forgotten corners, a testament to the invisible machine of storage that fails when nature turns foe. At the monastery gates, pilgrims beg for alms, but the monks, once generous, now ration their own granaries, prioritizing the brethren over the swelling ranks of the destitute. Inside the stone walls, the scent of incense battles the musty odor of damp parchments, where scribes record the mounting toll, livestock disease spreading through the countryside and killing countless sheep and cattle. A novice sneaks a crust to a starving family clustered outside, risking punishment in a moral tangle where charity clashes with survival. The abbot deliberates over hidden reserves buried in basement vaults, descending stone steps into the chill earth where barrels of last year's barley ferment unused, guarded against raids. This descent unveils the era's concealed logistics, church tithes funneled into fortified stores, meant to buffer against lean times, but now strained by a catastrophe that spares no one. The crisis swells as winter bites harder, with snow mixing into the endless rain, freezing the ground and halting any late planting. Towns overflow with refugees from ruined farms, crowding into alleys where disease festers in the close quarters, coughs echoing like omens. A riot ignites when word spreads of a noble's feast amid the starvation, the mob storming a granary only to be repelled by armed retainers, leaving bodies in the slush. Families resort to eating stray dogs and rats, boiling shoes for a semblance of soup, while children collapse in the streets, their frail forms ignored by passers-by, numbed to the sight. The hidden system cracks visible. Taxation drains the meager resources. Purveyance for kings' wars strips villages bare, turning local woes into a continental unraveling. Escalating beyond control, entire herds succumb to pestilence, their lowing silenced in mass graves that reek under the overcast skies. Villages empty as survivors flee to cities, only to find gates barred against the influx. Guards turning away the ragged with pikes and threats. In one desperate clash, a crowd breaches a warehouse, devouring raw grain in frenzy before order is restored with brutal efficiency. Hangings to deter others. Whispers of darker acts circulate. Abandoned children and dark rumors of cannibalism in isolated hamlets, though few dare to confirm such stories. The monumental layer warps further, with landslides burying roads and floods isolating regions, amplifying the isolation in a Europe bound by shared misery. Nearing the city walls, the gates loom as sentinels of exclusion, where tolls demand payment in food that no one possesses, stranding the hungry outside in makeshift camps lashed by wind. Inside, the elite hoard what remains, their tables sparse but sustained by networks of trade that bypass the masses. A public execution draws a gaunt audience. The condemned, a baker accused of adulterating flour with sawdust, his fate a grim enforcement of the fragile order. The daily grind intensifies. Work exhaustion claims lives as laborers toil for scraps. Social hierarchies rigidify with lords imposing harsher controls. Disease rides the famine's wake. Fevers spreading through contaminated water. Bodies piled in carts for hasty burials. The crisis deepens as the second year's harvest fails completely, revealing how fragile the medieval food supply truly was. When crops failed across entire regions, even the granaries of lords and monasteries could not feed everyone. Dependency on erratic weather, coupled with relentless taxation and warfare's drain, exposes how a continent's bounty could vanish, leaving millions to the mercy of rot and rain. Authorities' harsh decisions, closing borders, punishing hoarders, only deepen the divide, as moral dilemmas force choices between family and neighbor, survival and soul. As the rains finally ease in 1317, fields tentatively green again, but the scars linger in depopulated lands and hollow eyes. Europe staggers toward recovery, the famine's toll a quiet echo in thinned villages and forgotten graves. Yet the famine leaves a harsh lesson remembered for generations. Medieval life depended entirely on the mercy of the weather and the success of the harvest.